Hello guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my videos. And here for you guys, the best Subjutsu tier list in Shindo Life. Now the reason why I'm making this video is because there has been a ton of new Subjutsus ever since I made the last one. So if you guys enjoyed this video, remember to like, click on more, let's get right to the video guys. Alright guys, so for this tier list, I'm going to be going through all of the old Subjutsus pretty quickly just because there's so many of them. If you guys don't know, there are 69 Subjutsus in the game right now. So I'm probably going to go through the old ones pretty quickly, just overall summarize them. Air Control is going to be C tier, it just extends your M1s. Flame Control is going to be B tier, it actually adds a lot of damage to M1 combos. Stone Control is going to be going below air on C tier, it pretty much just breaks blocks with M1s, and there's other block breakers of the game that are much better than that. Shock Control is going to definitely go to the top of C tier, it pretty much stuns people on M1s, but it doesn't really do anything because the normal M1s actually have stuns themselves. And Liquid Control is going to go D tier, it just slows them down, it's pretty much useless at this point. Body Replacement is going to be the first S tier one, it actually was changed so that you can use it during anything in the game, including M1 combos, which makes it one of the best auto dodge / iframe moves in the entire game. Clown Trap is definitely going to be going to the bottom of C. Memes aside, it used to be really good, but now it's pretty bad. It's just like it's like a semi place lock stun that doesn't last that long. Confusion Illusion definitely bottom of D tier. This is just a meme thing where it just reverses their controls. Demon Warp is going to be going A tier. This is actually one of the best traveling moves in the game right now, and actually was buffed a little bit. The damage was buffed on it, and overall Demon Warp is actually really good just for normal RPG. Dual Electro is going to be going to the top of C tier. It does a lot of damage, but it has a ton of hand size. It takes a lot of chi. Hawk's Summon is actually going to the top of B tier. It actually is really good for annoying people or just getting around. It actually is very good for fights as well because you can pretty much just avoid attacks while dealing out damage yourself. The Sleeping Genjutsu is going to be the top of D tier. It actually was buffed, so the hand size was lowered by a lot, but it still isn't quite as good as the other stuns in the game. Flame Shuriken is going to be going to D tier as well. I'm just going to be putting it above Confusion. If you're going to be using a Shuriken, just use your throwable. Don't waste a Subjutsu slot for it. Fire Subjutsu top of B tier. It actually is a really predictable block breaker, but it actually can be good if you have no other block breakers in your kit. Fog Dissolution top of A tier. Actually has hand size now, which makes it significantly worse than it used to be, but it still is good for iframe or just place locking them. The Gazome Mado bottom of S tier. It actually is a very random ability, so sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's bad, but overall it is worth using. Now this Spirit Bomb attack is definitely going into S tier. I'm going to be putting it above Gazome Mado. This ability, I actually underrated it severely. It is really good, especially against auto dodges, because if you use it on them in the auto dodge, it still drags them with it. So it actually is really good right now in this current meta, and I actually really like this ability. I just don't like when it's used against me. Heavily Wall top of C tier is mainly a defensive ability. It should honestly give iframes. I think that's something that Rogue Ape should do. If he uses this ability, it should give you iframes, because right now the meta has changed so that this type of defensive ability is just not good whatsoever. Lightning Shuriken is definitely going to A tier. I'm putting it to the bottom of A tier. It's really good for combo extending, but it's just a very slight stun. Medical Mode Transfer is going to go into C tier. I'm probably going to put it to the bottom of C tier. This is useless outside of team fights, obviously, because it transfers your mode, but it actually can win you some 2v2s. Peekaboo is just a better clown trap. Rap Style Meteorite's going to go to the top of D tier. Actually, it has a very tiny AoE now and actually bugs out a lot, so sometimes it doesn't even work. Rap Style Prison is probably honestly going to the bottom of A tier. This ability is actually extremely good because you can use it instead of Water Prison stun, and as you guys probably know, Water Prison is one of the best stuns in the game because it actually lasts very long and is a place lock. Alright, so Rap Style Warp and Reality Style Warp are both going to be going to the top of B tier. They're actually really good for iframing or avoiding attacks, but when it comes to being in your kit, most likely you're going to be using a different iframe over these, but you can pretty much just infinitely be in them if you actually use Stamina Pots. Electro Blade is going to the bottom of B tier. It actually is a really good ability now after it's been buffed, but it still isn't quite as good as the other Subjutsus in the game. Now Reaper, this kind of pains me to see because it actually was in the meta a long time ago. The Reaper, all three Reapers are both going to be going into the middle of B tier. Now the reason for this is because Reaper does not fit in this current meta because it is extremely hard to hit this attack. It actually puts your iframes on cooldown, so you're not able to use iframes with these, and it also has a little bit of end lag at the end of it, so people can actually attack you before it's over. Now Medical Team Heal is going to be below Medical Mode Transfer, and the Self Heal is actually going into the bottom of B tier. It actually is these healing abilities are really good for team fights or just healing yourself, but you have to have a lot of space to actually heal, which is why it's definitely going to go to the top of C tier because you have to have a lot of space. It actually consumes a ton of chi. Senko Storm obviously going to be going to the bottom of S tier. It is still an extremely good Subjutsu, even with the one or two hand size that was added to it, and actually still does like 50k damage, barely takes any chi, and overall this ability actually is still really good. Normal Senko Bomb is probably going to go to the bottom of B tier. No, it's definitely going to go below Hawk Summon on B tier. Now the reason for this is because when it comes to the Spirit Bomb, it actually knocks them back. So Senko Storm is literally just a better version of it. Now the normal clone is actually going to the bottom of D tier. It literally is just useless, and the Karashi clone And for the multi-clone and the Karashi multi-clone, these are actually the exact same thing. They're both probably going to be going to the bottom of C tier. I feel like clones are really bad nowadays because there's not really much that the normal clones can actually do, because while they may like make your enemy a little bit confused or just annoy them, there's other summons in the game like Toad summon, Snake summon, or even the Geo clone that are just much better overall for what the clones do. Now, Vanishing Clone Barrage is probably going to the top of C tier. You actually need a placelock stun to do it, and the damage has been nerfed a lot, but it still is usable sometimes. Now, Woodbine is going to go to the top of B tier, and Waterbind is going to be going below it. Now, the reason for this is because these abilities, if they actually hit, that you can combo into it, but they're actually really easy to avoid, and half the time they glitch out and don't even work. The Exploding Clone definitely going to go to the top of D tier. Half the time, you're not even going to get these off, and if you do, they actually don't do that much damage, or they just avoid them entirely. Now, the Naramaki clones are definitely going into the bottom of B tier. Now, these clones are actually, they're usable because they actually do use your abilities after a certain length of time. Now, they still are the exact same as the other clones, but they have the chance to use your abilities. So it's pretty much just a vanishing clone, but you could summon it instead of having to swap places. Also, the blue one is the multi version, so you can summon more than one. Now, the Vanishing Clone Spirit Bomb is actually going into A tier. I'm probably going to put it to the top of A tier. This ability does a ton of... Actually, no, it's definitely going to go to the bottom of S tier. This ability does, like, an absurd amount of damage. I don't know if you guys have ever used it, but it has the chance to do, like, 90k damage. And that's from a Subjutsu, so I'm sure I don't really need to explain why that is so good. Now, Vanishing Clone Replacement actually... I'm going to do this after it's changed, but it actually is getting changed to a breakaway iframe. So it's literally just going to be a worse version of body replacement, pretty much, because you're just going to swap places with your clone. Now, this ability is a lot more spammable than body replacement, but I feel like body replacement is more usable overall, because like, you don't have to put a clone down beforehand. But once this gets fixed to an actual breakaway iframe, it's going to be just as good as body's replacement. I'm just doing this preemptively before the buff. Shadow Clone Snowman is pretty much the same exact thing as the Woodbine and Water Prison clones. Man, you guys remember when Shock Slam was the meta? Like, every single Shock Slam was really good. Shock Slam is going to be top of C tier. It is very easy to counter or avoid it nowadays. And pretty much, if you use Shock Slam, it actually can hurt you more than it helps you. But it is really good for movement. Slay Bomb is also be going into C tier. I'm actually going to be putting it above the controls in C tier. And the normal Slay is actually going into B tier, probably above the controls. Now, when it comes to this normal Slay move, the normal Slay move is extremely good, extremely annoying, but the Slay Bomb isn't quite as good. It's pretty much just Clay's ability reskinned. Now, Snake Summon and Toad Summon are definitely going to the bottom of A tier. Actually, no. I'm going to be putting them below Demon Warp in A tier. Now, these abilities are actually a lot better than people give them credit for, because they actually can stall your opponent out a lot. I actually do use these in competitive whenever I do play, because the ability is actually so extremely good for charging your chi, because if they try to attack you while the summon's active, obviously they'll take free damage, so they have to run away and have to let you charge chi. Now, Tree Illusion is pretty much just a Sleeping Genjutsu, but a little bit better. Rowdy Talk, bottom of C tier, has an auto dodge attached to it, but that's pretty much the only thing that makes it different from Sleeping Genjutsu. Now, Vanishing Spirit Bomb is definitely going into A tier. I'm going to be putting this probably at the top of A tier. This is actually one of the best Subjutsus in the game right now, believe it or not, because this ability actually has almost perfect auto tracking. It actually is really good. It does a lot of damage to people. Now, forgive me, but I'm pretty sure the first one's Odama and the second one's Super Odama. So for the normal Odama, it's going into B tier, probably to the bottom of B tier. I'm actually moving this to the bottom of B tier and Flame Control at the very bottom. Now, when it comes to normal Odama, it actually is a block breaker. It's pretty much just Ember entry, but you can't. But it knocks them back. Now, Super Odama is definitely going into probably C tier. I'm going to be putting it to the top of C tier. This ability actually is really good for block breaking and stalling out fights, but there's pretty much just other better things you can use in the game. Now, Shuriken Rush is going to probably into B tier. I'm putting Shuriken Rush probably honestly above the spirits. Now, Shuriken Rush is actually still really good for fights, because it is still an instant ability and it still makes it so they can't see where you're going. Shuriken Toss, definitely bottom of B tier. It's pretty much just a worse Vanishing Spirit Bomb. Now we're on to the new Subjutsus tier, so if you guys have any input on the new Subjutsus, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'm going to go through these based off of my first impression of them. I've also seen a couple of them in fights, so just take it with a grain of salt when I do these. I'm going to go ahead and start with what I think is one of the most broken Subjutsus in the game right now. This is just a better blood ability, and it can hit up to 3 people. I feel like I don't really need to explain why this ability is just so good. It's just really good, because it's just 1/3 on 3 people, and it lasts longer. Now this riser ability, I actually think it's pretty bad, so I'm going to be putting it probably to the top of C tier. I think this ability is actually pretty bad overall, simply because this ability, when it comes to like actual fights, I know in the video they said, oh, you can block break them, but I feel like the stun should just be slightly longer in this ability, and it actually will be worth grinding after that. Now, Ode to clones, I'm not going to lie to you guys, these are pretty bad. I'm definitely going to be putting them just above the normal multi-clones. Now, this ability, it does do a lot of damage, but you have to have really, really good aim to hit it, and it also does not auto-track to people above you. So, if they just jump, you will completely miss this ability. Now, the normal Shuriken Rush, I'm definitely going to be putting it probably into a B tier. I'm going to be putting it above the normal one, obviously. And actually, the Toss is actually really, really good. I'm going to put it to the top of B tier. Now, for the Rush ability, I feel like it's just a better Shuriken Rush, obviously. But when it comes to the other one, the Toss, it actually is just the Rush, but as a Toss. And believe it or not, as the ability, the AoE at the end is very, very, very good on the Shuriken Rush. On the Shuriken Toss. Now let's go ahead and do the poison abilities. I'm going to be putting the poison counter probably probably in B. I'm going to be putting it below the Toss on B. Now this ability is just water. It's literally just Dangen's counter as a Subjutsu, and it doesn't last as long. It also doesn't stun them. Now the poison bomb ability is definitely going to the top of D tier. This ability is really, really bad, especially when I saw it in the video and I've seen people use this. It is really bad. I would avoid it farming for this until they buff it, because this ability does it's very hard to hit all of the first ability of it, like hit all of the balls, and if you hit all the balls, even then you're rewarded with a poison that doesn't really do that much damage overall. Now the other poison ability is definitely going into probably B tier. I'm going to be putting it above the spirits and below Rush on B tier. Now this ability has been damage nerfed ever since the video. If they didn't nerf it, it definitely would be A tier, but with how it is now, the chances of you hitting this if they're not stunned is very, very, very low, because it does require hand sides and it is very close ranged. Now the Shiver style Dimension Blade, definitely going into the bottom of S tier. It is a 0 hand sign stun attack that does 40k damage. Do I really need to say more? Now the Jisoo Station Fist of Steel is definitely probably going to be going into C tier. I'm going to put it at the top of C tier simply because it is a rush attack. It's pretty much the same exact circumstance as the Shock Slam. It's very counterable, very noticeable, and very avoidable. They definitely need to reduce the startup time of this move and definitely reduce the chi cost. Now the Jet Cannon, I actually feel like this is a very A tier Subjutsu, because I feel like I really like this. It's pretty much just Typhoon's ability as a Subjutsu. So when it comes to this ability, it's definitely probably going to be going above Lightning Shuriken on A tier, because I feel like the Typhoon was obviously already extremely good, and they reworked it as a Subjutsu, and yeah, it's just really, really good right now. And the Midikaze Magma Bomb is definitely going below just the other Spirit Bomb, because it is pretty much the same exact thing, but it doesn't have like the big whammy special attack at the end. It's just 2 big damage bursts. Anyways guys, that should be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe, more. Thanks guys. Bye bye.